ain't sleeping till Hollywood, Hollywood. We ain't sleeping.
Hello, everyone. I am Caleb McDonald.
And it's your girl, Gaelyn Smith.
And you are listening to No Sleep Till Hollywood.
Mm.
We're not sleeping until we make it in Hollywood. And while we're up, we will be discussing the state of the industry and our place in it.
And today, I know we are a TV film podcast, but today we're talking about the jams, the bops. It is Black Music Month, in case you didn't know. We are also recording this on actual Juneteenth, so happy late Juneteenth by the time you're hearing this. But we're going to talk about Black Music Month, y'all. If you guys did not know that June is African American Music Appreciation Month, that is its birth name. We're going to call it Black Music Month because, I'm Black and I have to give it a nickname. So we will be celebrating our community's musical influences and heritage. But this episode, we are going to talk about an icon, a legend who left us last month. We're going to talk about Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll. And we're going to get into what's love got to do with it. And then her documentary, I, Tina. And yeah, let's get into it.
I will say I learned a lot on this venture because, unfortunately, not that this will be a surprise, I was not too familiar with Tina Turner before.
Wait. What do you mean familiar? Like you didn't know none of the songs?
No, like I knew of the songs, but did I know the songs were her? That's a different question.
I just saw The Blackening today. And that question would have took you out. Like now that I've seen that movie, I can only think of things in terms of like how long someone would last into the movie now. And I wasn't lasting that long either, but I don't know. That might have took you out in the first 12 minutes. I don't know, friend.
First 12 minutes.
No, okay, that's an exaggeration. That is an over-exaggeration. Is that an over-exaggeration? It's an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration.
Right.
I feel like if you couldn't make it through the first 22 minutes, we should have questions, comments, and concerns.
That makes sense though.
But no, I feel like I knew. It's funny. We can jump to this question. By the time I saw What's Love Got to Do with It, I feel like I was older enough that, unlike a lot of people, I did not think that Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne were Ike and Tina.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out on Twitter that a lot of people saw that movie so early that they thought that they were Ike and Tina.
Right.
It's like my mom loves music. My mom played a lot of music for me as a kid. Like I was one of those kids in the car where my mom would be like, "What you know about this?" And she'd be like quizzing me on music. So I definitely grew up with music that was like older than me. Like you can go through my playlist now. It still sounds a little bit like a 40-something-year-old Black woman. And also my age is weird. So I knew about Tina, but I knew like the songs. I still really only know like the big songs like What's Love Got to Do with It and Proud Mary and things like that. Like I know the big ones, but I knew the music. And then I saw the movie and was like, oh, dang, this was what was going on behind the music. Like that's when it was like, oh, this is crazy. Tina Turner started in the Ike and Tina Turner Review. That's where she got her stage name, Tina Turner. She was married to Ike Turner and he was very, very abusive. And then they got a divorce. And in her mid-40s, she was able to launch a successful solo career, partially as a way to pay off some of the debt that Ike left her with in their divorce from, their career as a musical recording group. But also because she always wanted to make music. Like once she became a singer, she always had, a vision for her own voice and her own career. And so she was able to do that in her late 40s. And that's where we get the iconic songs like What's Love Got to Do with It that were from her solo catalog.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that she shifted genres because again, I didn't know much going into it. So yeah, I would not have off of my little knowledge of Tina Turner, I didn't think rock and roll, but
she made rock, and this is what everyone confuses me. She's everyone's like, she switched genres. I'm like, she never did. Like all of her music was rock and roll. Even the Ike and Tina Turner Review stuff was rock and roll. Like that was early rock and roll. She literally is credited with teaching Mick Jagger how to dance. Like it was always rock and roll. That's why I don't understand. Like
I'm
when
not
you look at,
familiar.
but music of the 60s. Like about Motown.
Yeah.
Right. So that's R&B
Hmm.
and a little bit of pop. And then like you've heard Proud Mary before.
Yes.
Rock and roll.
Right. I just because the term pop music is very
Broad.
broad, considering it literally kind of just means popular music.
Yeah. And it's like
So
depending on
that's
the
where
time period, what is pop? Like rock was once pop.
right. So that's where like it was. Oh, labels are being put now for the first time in my eyes
I
because
guess yeah, I think like when she like cut the hair and had like the whole like image change that came about in like the 80s when she was trying to get signed as a solo act and kind of mount the whole large world tour thing. I guess that's when her image became more quote unquote rock and roll. I think it's funny because I think when she aligned herself with a more white imagining of rock and roll is then when she got respect as a rock and roll artist, because when she was still in a more black aesthetic but making the same music, it was R&B.
right.
The same way that like I don't know. I remember when like Tyler the Creator won like best rap album for Igor, but it wasn't a rap album. Like now I feel like the thing is like it's rap. And it's like, no, like those genres have meanings and they're specific. And just because somebody's black doesn't mean that they only make R&B or rap music.
And just because they used to make rap doesn't mean they're stuck in that one genre for life.
Exactly. Right. Thank you. I feel like, yeah. But no, it's obviously Tina Turner looks like Queen of Rock and Roll. She was a big influence on artists like Beyonce and Lizzo. So obviously, even the people that she's influenced make very different kinds of music. So like, I feel like it's weird to box Tina into like any genre,
Right.
but I definitely would agree that she is the queen of rock and roll because she definitely did so much to diversify the sound and the aesthetic of that genre.
Do you have a favorite Tina Turner song?
Hmm. I feel like it depends on the day, but it really is either Proud Mary or What's Love Got to Do with It. Like those really, them two are the jams.
Right.
Like I feel like Proud Mary, once it gets stuck in your head, it's there. You're just like rolling, rolling, rolling. Just be, it's my jam. So I feel like those two songs really are my bop.
No, I used to like Simply the Best. Then it got too much of a commercial jingle to me. Like
What do you mean? Wait, hold on. You said used to and then commercial jingle. You said you only knew about her music about for 4 seconds. So what do you mean used to?
because like that's a song that like I would hear and like I would like it, but then I feel like it was on too many commercials or in too many movie sequences. So now it just feels
I can't
like a
think of a
commercial
single.
to me.
Wait, what movie was simply the best? I can't think of a singular movie with that song right now.
Well, it had to be in commercials. Like I feel like it was in those cheesy commercials where it's like, "We got you covered, simply the best," and then
Oh, there was it a Geico commercial? It was like a commercial, like a couple, maybe like I want to say like in the last 10 years. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like I remember there being like a Geico or an Allstate, and it was in the commercial.
oh, maybe it was Progressive with Flo.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
And then like they have a good time montage, and then like somebody
Yes.
ruins it.
Yes.
That sounds about right.
I feel like I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
But that being said,
Yeah.
favorite song now would definitely be "What's Love Got to Do with It."
What's love got to do? Got to do with it? Really, I don't listen. We're about to get into this, but Angela Bassett was robbed for her performance in Tina Turner. I have to start there. There's no reason to start the conversation any other way. I don't know how in 1994 they sat at them Oscars and really said, Angela Bassett really just didn't do the thing. Like, are they blind? Are they dumb? They have to be both because I'm just not seeing like where they missed it.
Do you know who won Best Actress?
No, who cares? I mean, we should look it up, but like, who cares?
It was Holly Hunter.
Who is that?
Yeah, no, that would actually be the part where I check out because I've never
Holly
seen
Hunter
the
did what
piano.
now?
She
She's in
acted in
what?
the piano.
What's that? Stares in black confusion.
Stairs in Black Confusion. Yeah,
Okay.
that's really all I could say.
All right. So, for those of y'all who don't know, What's Love Got to Do with It is the 1993 biographical film based on the early life of Tina Turner up and through her divorce and like mounting her solo career. So, like up until like the early 90s, which like I didn't realize how old she was until I was rewatching the movie today and being like, dang, by the time we got to the movie was only in 93. By 93, she done all this stuff. Like her career in the sense of like, not that she was done, like, she was winding her career down at that point. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know that we got too many more albums after that movie came out. Like, we know that she's then moved to, Europe and those things, but like the movie
Right.
really wasn't like that just felt like a movie that like in my head should have been made in like the 2000s, but I guess like she had done so much by then where it's like she's done.
No, it is actually very wild to think that like the movie was made only 7 years after the autobiography.
And the
Um,
autobiography came out kind of early in a sense. Like,
yeah, because like had she gone back to her original to her birth name
mhm,
or just like shifted directions in terms of market, like then it would have made sense. Okay, we're closing this chapter, so here
right.
you guys go with the Tina Turner story. But
She kept that
no,
Tina Turner, honey.
she kept that Tina Turner. Do you have what are your thoughts on the film?
I like the movie
Hmm.
a lot. I mean, that's a weird thing to say because of like how violent and abusive it is and all those things. But like,
Yeah.
I think it is I mean, Angela Bassett is fantastic in that film. Like, she really fully changed her body composition. Like, learned all of the dances, learned so much of the mannerisms. I know Angela Bassett talked about for like 3 or 4 months after the film, she still laughed like Tina and like
Hmm.
throw her head back and do the thing. And it was like she was like, I still laugh like Tina. It was in my neck and just and it's like she did so much to really transform herself. And one of the things that she said that Tina Turner told her about her performance was that Tina liked that for as much as Angela Bassett tried to get her in terms of her mannerisms and her essence, that she liked that Angela Bassett more so found the Tina Turner in herself
Right.
and put that on screen. And I was like, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Cause like, I don't see, I mean, yes, there are a couple things that I see that are Angela Bassett where I'm like, that's an Angela Bassettism, but like,
Hmm.
even like the whole mouth thing that everyone talks about, Angela Bassett like acts through her mouth, and it's like, but if you watch Tina Turner sing, like she also does similar things where it's like,
Right.
where is it Tina and where is it Angela? Like I thought it was just a really well done, well acted. The performances were really strong. Lawrence Fishburne was really strong in that movie as well. But I really like that movie. I think that there are, especially when we look at the documentary that we watched,
Hmm.
Tina, which was more of her telling her story the way that she wanted it told,
Right.
you realize how much as the movie showed you, it also glossed over so many things. Like as violent as the movie was, it still didn't encompass what she experienced.
Right.
Or then like there were just a lot of moments where we would like skate through things where I'm like, no, that was longer. Or, like the fact that she was in hiding after she runs across the freeway to escape and then she goes into hiding while she's having her divorce trial. Like it's not just like runs across the freeway, checks into a hotel, ends up in court. Like it's not as
Yeah, the
fast.
movie, cause forgetting about like just the timeline of things, the movie did have a number of inaccuracies like
Yeah.
throughout it that also just make you think like, why did you guys go that route?
And I guess
If
the thing is it's like you're trying to tell a 2-hour story.
Mhm.
And so like the documentary itself was 2 hours, but it breaks it into 5 chapters, and you could have spent like 2 hours in each of those chapters. Really, like it's like how do you take someone's life and put it into 2 hours? So I understand like some of the jumps that were made for timeline or things that you might edit for clarity, or it's like, okay, we don't need to see every single time Ike meets her. Like we don't need
Right.
that. So like
Yeah, no.
you make certain things, but there were just certain things where I was like, this is confusing. Or like even like in the movie, I don't know if you caught this, but like in the movie it's the ex Iket who introduces her to Buddhism, but then she tells the story in the documentary about how it was a white woman that like worked for a label or something that Ike bought to work on the music, and that's how she got introduced to Buddhism. And like, yes,
Right.
it's small, but like, why make
But
that change?
because that's a big shift, and like it takes away from the like support system that like the movie gave us. Like the movie was like, oh, she always had this versus she found something
And
and
also,
things that
like,
changed her.
even just in that of like it being introduced to her by a white woman, like, also would add to the tension of it and would probably be why like Ike was so irritated by it. Like, that changes that even. So it's just like little things like that where it was like, these choices didn't actually serve the plot. And so why were they made?
Right.
It's kind of my thing. What are your
And
thoughts? Oh, good.
one of the hold on, just because one of the weirder inaccuracies was also that Ike's partner, when she shot herself.
Oh, the baby mama.
Yeah.
Baby mama number
So
one
Ike's baby mama, number one, shot
or two. I
herself,
don't know.
and then that same night they had Ike and Tina get together.
Right.
When the reality of it was, it actually happened like 2 years later.
Right.
So it's like
And I guess
that,
they were trying to paint Ike as like a desperate manipulator in a
right?
faster way because it's like, oh dang, you can't even be by yourself for 5 seconds. You
For
already
five
all up on this.
seconds,
Like, it literally was like he came in from the hospital talking about some, I hate that hospital smell, and then he kissing on anime. How
yeah.
did we get here?
So that was just weird. Overall, I think the movie was well strung for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, it was a lot of abuse for me. So like, mine started watching the movie versus actually seeing the whole movie. Um, yeah, no, I wish that like the movie centered more on the milestones that the music was
Mm-hmm.
making versus the milestones of their relationship, but I think that kind of adds to the title of the movie.
I think that's it because it's like it almost more, other than the fact that I guess it still centered Tina,
Hmm.
it felt like the rise and fall of Ike and Tina Turner,
Right,
as
exactly.
opposed to like Tina, who went through this abusive marriage and was still able to build a career and then built another career. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, it just had that. Because even in the doc, it's like the doc was the same length as the movie, I think almost down to the minute.
Yeah,
And like the abuse of the doc was only maybe 25, 30 minutes in the first hour of the movie. And then everything else was everything else. We learned so much more about her, where I'm just
and,
like,
and she was young when she met Ike,
right.
so for that I understand what the thing I'm about to bring up, but they showed her singing as like that little girl in the very first scene. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of excited to see like, a little progression of just Tina and then getting involved with
Nutbush.
Ike.
Sitting in
But
Nutbush, and yeah.
nah, they said jump. Okay.
And that's the thing, is I think you have to like decide what is the story you're telling. Like,
Hmm.
for example, like the Jackson 5 movie slash miniseries. They start with the parents, but they don't start with the parents being born. They start with the parents as adults. I think they were in their late teens, early 20s, meeting
Right.
and then having their children. So it's a little bit before the kids, but not so much that you're like, what is the point of showing this? And I feel like
Hmm.
that's how the beginning with the baby, like, I understand we needed to know that her parents left her, but like we could have done that differently. I also think in the documentary it's interesting the way she talks about her relationship with her mom, because in the movie it's like, oh, her grandmother dies, her mother sends for her and her mother seem to be, good or
Yeah.
whatever. And then when you listen to the doc, it's like, no, I hated my mother. My mother disliked me and she just wanted me because I was successful. And there was more of a tension there that I feel like the movie just, again, I think the movie was very specific in the story it was trying to tell. It wanted to
Hmm.
tell the story of a young girl seduced by fame who escapes an abusive situation. And I think that is the story they were interested in telling It just so happened to be the story with Tina Turner,
Right.
as opposed to like really giving us like the Tina Turner, you know.
Like in the documentary, which
Right.
what were your thoughts on that one?
That's the second time I've seen the documentary. I
Hmm.
watched it again today as well, and I like what I realized in watching the documentary is that there's so much media that tells Tina Turner's story. Right? We have a book, we have a movie, we have a documentary, and we have a musical. So there
Right.
are 4 attempts at telling this woman's life story.
Hmm.
And I like that finally she got to tell it the way she wanted to tell it. And
Right.
that she got to share as much or as little as she wanted. And she got to really voice her frustrations about always being viewed in connection to Ike and always being sort of put through the lens of the ex-wife of, and that she talked about her frustrations there. She talked about, her experiences with love and like talking about how she felt like she had never been loved in her life. And then how she meets her, now her husband, well, her former husband now, and how that changed her mind and how she literally was like, that's the safest and happiest I've ever felt, and picked up her entire life and moved out of America to
Right.
go be this new person and, have this great love affair. And I love that we are seeing powerful women take control of their own narratives and tell their stories. It's why I always have loved the Beyonce documentaries. It's like Beyonce taking us into this world tour, this album. And I love that women are telling their own stories because I think it's important. I think what Tina Turner went through unfortunately, is not uncommon for women, right? There are so many women
Hmm.
right now who are living in abusive situations, and letting her talk about her story and all of the things that made up her life outside of her abuse, I think is also helpful because it allows for women who are in that situation, people who are in that situation, to know that like you can still be a full person outside of it. So I really appreciated that. I liked the way it was told in 5 chapters because it kind of allowed for us to jump back and forth between time, but like
Yeah.
tell thematically linked events. I think that was really important and really well done. And I just
Hmm.
like that, similarly to how I feel about, if you guys have seen the Tupac documentary on FX, like I love when there are moments where I'm hearing somebody talk, but then I'm seeing something that is a visual representation or is linked to what the person is saying, but isn't watching people speak or isn't watching like archival footage. But it's like, here are some trees or here's a cinematic shot of the house that we're talking about. Like, I like when you
Hmm.
break that up because I think documentaries can get kind of like 2 shots, like
Right.
interview, found footage. And it's like, I like when you're able to like break those things up. What about
No,
you?
I it broke my heart having to hear Tina because even in this documentary that was her telling her story, like she
Mm-hmm.
still had to
Yeah.
address the fact that like the story the complete story isn't fully hers because like she was always linked to Ike.
Yeah.
um and so like even though this was her chance to like cut it clean, like she still had to be like, yeah, and so every moment it's just like, why are we still talking about this?
Yeah.
Why is that still being brought up? And she legitimately even talked about that period of her life, even though like from a like numbers standpoint, from an outside perspective, the fame, like anyone else could have been like, oh, she was living during
Right.
those years, but she herself said, I did not exist. It was not a life that she was actually living. um and it did make me extra happy to hear, well, sad first when she was like, I had never felt loved.
Yeah. She was in her
um
40s saying that. It's like, dang, she's like, my
right.
mama and daddy, nope. Like, I've never had a genuine connection that sustained itself. Was, I think, her almost exact phrasing. And I was like,
Hmm.
dang, like
But
that's,
then she did find this partner, and like,
yes.
not not that love is the win, but hmm?
Irwin.
Arwen. Arwen Bach, I think.
No,
No?
let me look up Uncle Irwin's name.
It's
Tina
definitely
Turner
Erwin.
husband. You were right. It's Urban Bach.
Over here got me doubting
I
myself.
thought
That's
I thought his
crazy.
last name was something like longer. I don't know where I was going. Like there was like a
Something
off in there,
English.
like a Hemishoff or something. It was,
Right.
I don't know where I was
But
going, but it didn't seem like.
no, her and Erwin Bach, they had a nice meet cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, so I was the documentary definitely made me feel more informed and at peace with the Tina
I
Turner
just wish
story.
we got a little bit more of the detail in the movie that was like present in the doc. And I mean, of course, some of
Hmm.
it is like what was available and what wasn't, but like
Right.
I almost would have that middle part between divorce and building Tina Turner, like when she was like performing at like what did they
Hmm.
say? They were like she would perform at the pizza party in the back. Like I wanted
Right.
like more of those like casino performances and things when she was really going like trying to get people to see her outside of Ike and Tina. I would have loved to see more of that journey because I think like I said, the movie got to a point for me where I was like, we know Ike ain't no good. And we know she here and we know she keep having these babies.
Hmm.
Like I not that I didn't want us to spend time there because it was a long part of her life. I think they were married for like 15 or 16 years. Like it was a very long part of her life, especially at that point. But
Right.
like I felt like we spent a little bit more time there than we had to and where I'm like, I wish we had seen more of this like
Hmm.
woman trying to build a life. And also just like, I don't know, they let Ike get off kind of easy in the movie. Cause like, I don't know, that whole moment when he comes and he's trying to like, you know, threaten her to get back with him so they can make some
Right.
music together. And it's like, this man took, didn't give her anything but her name and he didn't want to give her that. But then still somehow found a way to stick her with all of the bills from all of their recording contracts and all of his
Hmm.
advancements. And I'm like, I wanted more of how she got out of that than
Right.
I needed. Like, we didn't need to see Ike no Mo after a certain point. And it's just like some of the stuff that we got. Apparently, the eat the cake scene in question may or may not have even happened.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was an added, like, there's some speculation about that being like an added scene that never
It
happened. And
was
I'm like,
it was exaggerated from what I read.
yeah. So I'm like, why did we even get that? Like, we didn't need, because I think we got some repetitive scenes where I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, we saw that. I think the first scene that we see when the kids are there and they witness him abusing her, I think that
Right.
was an important moment because in the documentary the kids talk about remembering that. So I think that probably should have stayed. We didn't necessarily need the eat the cake scene. I think we should have
Hmm.
kept the limo scene. But then like with the whole limo scene when she finally hits him and the way she tells the story in the doc is like, "Oh, they went in the hotel room and like in the movie she just like they were mad. He told her to go clean herself up and then she left versus like no, like she was massaging him. She
Right.
waited until he fell asleep and like that was like it was almost a more deliberate calculated thing that in the
Hmm.
movie just became like and versus you
Right.
know what I'm saying. And I wish that I don't like that the movie made her almost seem reactive and kind of in a way like didn't it like diminished her intelligence a little bit. I felt like
Hmm.
it kind of made everything an emotional reactive thing as much as like no, a lot of her abuse she rationalized and logicalized internally and then her leaving was a
Yeah.
choice and a decision. Like I wish that we had gotten a little bit more of that because I think that's just important to me to see like
Hmm.
well-rounded women.
And something that also is iffy with the movie and like inaccuracies is the scene where he does come back and like threaten her with a gun. That was made up because
I
the
always felt
reality.
like that was made up. Like when you watch it, it just feels
Right.
fake.
Yeah, no, and then like because like don't get me wrong, I wanted to believe that she was like, and what you gonna do?
I believe
See,
that's how she would have
show.
responded if it happened. But
Right.
like she asked the most important question for me, which was, "How did you get past security?"
Yeah. No. But the reality being that he threatened to hire a hitman and then she carried a gun for a while. Like the movie was wrapping up, so we didn't need it. But
They
that
were,
that
and
also would
listen,
have
I
been
want to know about Tina Turner with the gun. Okay, I want to know who that woman was.
right. If I had to redo that movie, the first half would have been Ike and Tina. The second half would have been her getting that name.
In a 2 hour movie, I don't mind that you give me 30, 40 minutes of Ike and Tina in the first 60 minutes.
Hmm.
But after that,
Um,
especially now that
and
it's like the 2023, because like we could have got her in Switzerland. Like I want to know, like there was an interview I watched. I remember watching this interview that she did with Oprah in like 2013 when
mhm,
Oprah came to Switzerland. And Mama's was living. Okay, the house fabulous. The caftan or whatever it was giving. And I just want to know what Tina Turner was doing in Switzerland. Like,
right.
girl, what was up? What was we doing? It was giving black luxury, and I need to know.
Um, but considering that you and I both are creatives, We both do a little writing, you know.
Allegedly.
What responsibility
Mm.
do you think that we have to do people's real lives justice in creative storytelling? Because like when it comes to biopics,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not all the time is the story we tell going to be uh given the green light
Right.
by the person whose story it is we're telling. Because sometimes there are some necessary things that like they don't want to rehash.
Yeah.
But so what do you think the responsibility is there?
I think to me, you have to be as authentic as is available.
Hmm.
I think so. It's like, yes, there might be things they don't want to talk about, but like, let's not fill that in with our own imaginations.
Right.
So I think that's the issue we're talking about here is there were moments that were filled in with someone else's imagination, but this is somebody's real life
Hmm.
at the end of the day. And it's like, if you don't think that you can tell a good story with what they're willing to share with you, then this isn't the time for that story to be told. Like, I think that's really where it is. I think artists and folks who are the subject of like biopics in this way, like you have to be okay with waiting to tell your story until you're really ready. Because I think if
Yeah.
you're not ready to talk about it, you risk creative interpretation and you risk like your story being mistold and
Hmm.
misunderstood. And I think that is the big thing. I think for me as a writer, like it would always be about like how close to the truth can we get and how
Right.
much of the truth can we show. And if that means, hey, like I don't want to talk about the fact, like I don't want to talk about being abused, but I was abused. Cool. Then maybe we show you, being chased into a door and then the door closes and we move on past that moment and we can
Hmm.
just let the audience infer. But I think with what you write and what shows up on the screen, like that is not the space for you to,
Embellish.
yeah, like if you want to write fiction, go write a book, baby. Go write a novel. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, don't write a novel with somebody's life. That's just kind of like wild to me. It's a little disrespectful.
Hmm.
What about you?
Um, I agree that a story should be told when it's ready. Like, I wholeheartedly agree with that because it really becomes a gray area that, and also it's just an injustice to the story you're trying to tell in general.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that when it comes to biopics, um, you got to be careful.
Okay, I didn't learn this from the films that we saw, but I saw it on La Twitteres.
Hmm.
But Tina Turner handmade all of her wigs.
I'm not going to be disrespectful and say I could tell, but that's crazy.
Wait, Caleb. First of all, you have to remember these were the wigs of the '80s. Those were all of them wigs were good for the '60s and the '80s.
Yeah, prime real estate. Nah, I understand that. I
Now
understand that.
we'd be like, but for then,
Mm-hmm.
she was eating now. Also, I found this out. I can't think of the man's name, but there was a white makeup artist back in like the '80s and '90s who was responsible for doing like all of your black faces from those times
Yeah.
makeup. Like he created a lot of the techniques that like black women use to do makeup today, like on their faces. And he did Tina Turner's face. He did, I think, Naomi Campbell's face. But like a lot of like some of those like techniques and like signature makeup things that we got from them, like those specific women, like
Mm-hmm.
he created, which I thought was crazy. But yes, she handmade them wigs, child. And I was like, first of all, Tina Turner just went through so much. Like I just think about the fact that like you were getting punched in the face and then still going to sing, or like you're getting choked and then still singing. Like you
Right.
still have time to hand make these wigs. You're raising not only your children with Ike, but your like his outside babies and everything else. Like she was just doing so much as a woman, and then you're hand making these wigs. It just was like the craziest thing. I was like, yo, black women really are just magical and really do so much, even despite. So that was all about the incredible Tina Turner, the icon, the legend. Rest in peace to her. Prayers out to her family. It's Black Music Month, y'all. There are so many musical biopics out there. So if you're looking to get into some, obviously you can start with What's Love Got to Do with It. You can watch the documentary Tina, but there are so many. Beyonce got several documentaries out there. Chadwick Boseman played James Brown. That's a great movie. Like so many to choose from. But that's what we're gonna talk about today. This has been another episode of the No Sleep Till Hollywood podcast. It's your girl, Gaelyn Smith. You can follow me at GSmitty with 2 T's and 4 Y's on anything with an @ symbol.
And it's your boy, Caleb McDonald. You could see anything I have to say at Caleb Subtitles on anything.
And you can, of course, follow us at No Sleep Till Hollywood to, lock in, see clips from the past episodes to the podcast. So make sure you're clicking those if you want to watch it versus listen to it. You guys, desperately, if you listen to podcasts and you happen to have Spotify, direct yourself to Spotify. We're trying to monetize. So direct yourself to Spotify. We love you listening anywhere, but direct yourself to Spotify if you can. Right now, that's all we got for today, y'all.
And on that note,
good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Adios. Bonsoir. See you next time.
Beep, beep, bloop, bloop.